Assalamu alaikum, it's Anna here. I want to talk briefly about, I hope it's brief, about marriage. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, now this video, first of all, whatever good I say is from Allah. Whatever bad I say or wrong, may Allah forgive me, it's from me. This is mostly geared towards converts, reverts, but I guess the advice is for everyone. I wanted to make this video because we keep getting information about all these sisters in these horrible marriage situations where they're being abused or not taken care of or whatever. And now people have bad marriages across, the board, all types of people. But it seems like for a lot of converts, and our being so gung-ho for our new religion and lifestyle, sometimes we forget that people are people and that there are certain precautions that should be taken. Now, I did get married quickly, but it's someone that I knew for 13 years, and we had a lot of friends in common, and I had met his family, and he had met a lot of my people. Not my family, but he had met a lot of my people before, and my best friends and things like that. So it was like someone I knew, But I would just suggest, and I'm not talking about fiqh, I'm not a scholar, I'm not an imam, I'm just a concerned sister, that I would suggest that you involve your friends and family. Now, this of course doesn't apply to those of you who your family has disowned you, or everyone hates you and is talking about you, or you're young, your parents threw you out of the house because you became Muslim. This is for people who have a more regular kind of situation. Your family just thinks you're kind of crazy. They don't know what to make of this new religion. But they still love you. They still speak to you. They're still there for you. That's who I'm talking to. So if your family is like that and your friends are just kind of confused by your choices, it doesn't mean that they don't love you anymore. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't involve them in one of the biggest decisions in your life. Now, if they don't like the brother because he's a Muslim, then of course, that doesn't fly. But if first of all, you should introduce him to your father, your brothers, your cousins, your mother, all your people, your friends. Introduce him, because a lot of times, especially when you're smitten with someone, you can't see the obvious. Like my cousin said, some people have crazy eyes, and you don't know that because you're crazy about him. When you're talking about marrying somebody, it's very important. It's not just about you. This can be really like a curse for generations to come. You marry someone who's terrible, who's abusive, who doesn't take care of you and your children, and that can affect your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren for generations to come. Just that one choice you're making. So it's very, very important. Of course, you should pray istikhara and ask Allah for guidance, but Allah gave you a mind and gave you people who care about you for a reason. So you introduce him to your father and your brothers, and they're like, this dude is not right. Take heed with that. Pray about that. Don't just say, oh, whatever, you don't understand, I'm a Muslim, this is how we do it. Or your friends or whoever. Now, granted, they're going to think it's odd if you're not going to date him, and if you want to marry him quickly. Because in most of our cultures, Western culture, we don't do that. People don't get married too often very quickly. It's very odd. But if they meet him and he's respectful and you guys care enough to introduce them to the family, then it would make the family feel a lot better. And they love you. So I say just give them a chance. Also, pay attention to the signs, Don't... If religion is very important to you and you're, trying your best to be pious now, pay attention to the fact that this brother eats pork or drinks or smokes marijuana or doesn't mix a lot or never gets up for Fajr. You want someone who's going to help you get to Jannah, right? You don't want to be in a situation where... Because a lot of times what happens is we meet someone, this is the story, happens all the time, right? You meet someone, he's from somewhere else, he's a Muslim, but he's not all that practicing, hence he has a girlfriend, you start learning about the religion, you love it, you become super religious, because that's what most new converts do, right? And then you want to marry him, And then it's an issue, the fact that he's not religious. So take that into account. You might have to leave him alone. And pay attention to the signs. I think Amina made a video about it too. Like, he says he doesn't do drugs, he doesn't drink, but he comes by and he smells like marijuana, and he says it was his friends. Okay, what kind of friends is he hanging out with? Are you sure that's what you want to do? If he's quick to anger, if he is very negative, if he doesn't tell you information, if whatever, and ask the important questions. Don't just assume because he's a good Muslim brother or that he is a good Muslim brother. Ask questions. Difficult questions. Do you have a disease? Do you have any children? Do you already have a wife? Because some Muslims believe that he doesn't have to tell you he has a wife, or he doesn't have to tell you he's going to take another wife. Ask these questions. Maybe that'll help him understand where you're coming from. Do you expect me to work? Do you have a problem with me going back to school? How many children, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. How many children do you want to have? How do you want to raise the children? Also, if he's a different culture than you, there are a lot of differences that you might not be prepared for. Spend time with his family. Learn about his culture. Read about it. Ask other people. And ask him things cultures are things that you don't have to explain usually, but sometimes, what's expected of me? How is your mother supposed to treat me? How would I have to deal with, do I have to live with your parents? Ask questions, because a lot of things come up, especially what is expected, because you'd be surprised. A lot of times people get married and they're thinking, it's going to be peaches and cream, and then they find out that someone expects something they think just is completely crazy to them. Me, for instance, it was very important to me, my dance. I am a belly dancer. I don't want to hear any haram police, but it was very important to me that I still be able to dance, and that it not become an issue in my marriage. So I made a big deal about it ahead of time. Like, I'm going to dance. I'm going to teach dance. I'm going to have dance classes. I won't disrespect you. I'm not going to go out on stage in front of a mixed crowd in a two-piece costume anymore. Well, I wear hijab anyway, so I'm not going to do that. But I don't want someone to be like, my husband to be like, you can't dance anymore. That's enough. Or, it would be really upsetting to me. So I made a big deal out of that. So whatever is important to you, that you go back to school, that anything, discuss it ahead of time. How many children you have, if you work while you're pregnant or not, if you work when the children are small or not, whether he handles all the bills or not, how much is going to be expected of all sorts of things. Talk about it ahead of time. Don't just assume that it's going to be fine. You have to do the work, because marriage is hard. It's important that you like someone, you're attracted to him, you guys are on the same path, but it's a lot of hard work, and you want to do the best preparation that you can. So those are the main things. Involve your family. Watch for the signs. Say what you want and ask what he expects ahead of time. If you can, get some premarital counseling. They have workbooks and things you all can work through. Just, work on. Also, read your Quran. Learn the fiqh of marriage. Like, listen to some lectures. Read the Quran about what's expected of you and what's not. You'd be surprised, actually, when I started reading and learning it. Because at first, before I converted, I was reading the Bible about what's expected of a wife, right? And I wanted to prepare myself to be a wife. I was asking people who knew. It's good to know your rights and his rights. So just take some time, read a book about the rights of men, the rights of women in marriage, the rights of children, so that you can be prepared, because you'll be judged on it. This is half our deen. It's very, very important, and you have to take it very seriously. And I would just suggest that we, make the best choice, be prayerful about it, make it with sound judgment. Just whatever you do, don't convert to, you convert today and then next week you're on one of the matrimonial sites and you find a guy in another country or something, or way across your country, and you talk to him for a week online, you talk to him on the phone, he comes to visit you, and then you marry him like 2 weeks in without introducing him to your people, without asking him any important questions, without visiting his home, because you can get in a bad situation. I knew a sister who married a brother. They drove to his state to go cross country to go live where his people were. And when they get almost there, they're at a hotel. He's in the shower. She answers the phone, and a woman says, "Assalamu alaikum. Can I speak to our husband?" She had no idea he had a wife already. He said that he was divorced, but he wasn't. They were having some issues, but he had taken her as a second wife, and she had no idea. Now, did she ask that ahead of time? I'm not sure. And you could still end up in that situation. But if you go, meet his people, meet his family, go to the mosque he goes to, somebody might tell you, right? Two things, actually. I asked you already to ask him if he has any diseases, and if he's had any diseases, sexually transmitted or otherwise. But also, insist on a STD testing. I would really recommend that. Yes, you like to think, oh, Muslims and we don't do this and that and the other thing, but I insist that you both be tested. Also, run a background check on him. In America, that's public information. I don't know about in Europe or in Canada. But if you live in the same county, a lot of times you can go to the county courthouse if you have his name and his birth date, and you can run a background check on him. I had a friend who was with a man for 8 years or something, and then he beat her one day. And she came to find out he had a record. He had had domestic violence issues in the past. Nobody told her this. Not his family. She's been with him all these years. She did not know. But this is public information. You can look up his record and find out if there's domestic violence or has he been to jail or whatever. Not that if someone has some sort of record, it's terrible, but it would be nice if they told you, especially if you've asked already. So it's a good idea to look at that. If he is a child molester or something, you might want to know these things. Also, there's a public sex offender record in a lot of places you can look up by your area and things. So just be careful. There's a lot of danger out there, and there are a lot of ways to prevent a lot of things. So really think about this. When we talk about the sunnah of marriage and how things were done, people lived in communities where everyone knew each other. Now, if you live in a small town or a village somewhere in the world right now, or I don't know, in America, in the South, in a small community, it's kind of like that. Everybody knows each other. Everybody knows your family and the people from your town and how whoever behaves and how people behave, and they know you. They know if your cousin is wild and if your family is known for having that wild girl in the family. They know that your people are whatever. But we're dealing with a lot of big cities and a lot of times people from other places, so we have to take other precautions. These are things that, in the time of the Prophet, ﷺ, people would have known already, right? But we don't. So if you're marrying in your community, it's different. Maybe you grew up with this boy's family, this man's family, and so you know them and you know him and you know all about them. But if you're meeting someone online, or if you're a new convert or you're new to the community, you don't know them. So you have to take some precautions. You need to run some background on him. You need to ask a lot of questions that don't seem very modest, But you have to protect yourself and your unborn children, your grandchildren. And it's like an aunt of mine told me, it's a legacy for your family for generations to come. So take it very seriously who you choose to marry. And I wish you the best. May Allah make it easy for you. May He bless you in your life and bless you with a strong marriage and beautiful children that are wonderful and that are helpful to get you into Jannah. And make life easy and great for you. Ameen. Okay. Assalamu alaikum for real.